We have a man averaging a triple-double in the NBA right now. Last time that happened, 1962. And yesterday, Mark Cuban, Mavericks owner, was asked who should win the MVP. He said it was a toss-up between LeBron and James Harden. When asked about Russell Westbrook being in the conversation, he said he's not. The criteria hasn't changed. If I changed my mind, it would ruin all the fun for you guys. And now, Cuban said last year that Westbrook wasn't a superstar because he hadn't led an otherwise average team to 50 wins in a season and a playoff series victory. There's so much more behind this. First take, Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman with us. This is like a little jab, like he's just sticking it to him. What do you make of these comments?
First of all, it's ridiculous. Of course, Russell Westbrook's a superstar. When Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double, the pace was so much, there were so many more possessions in the game that there are today. So not only has it not been done since then, but it's a much more impressive accomplishment than even Oscar Robertson's. Westbrook's an absolute stone-cold, bona fide superstar, period. So what's Mark Cuban doing? He's trapped by his own logic. I said 50 wins and a playoff series win. And he hasn't done it yet. But why is he holding himself to that logic? Nowadays, it's called trolling. You know what it was called when Muhammad Ali did it to Joe Frazier or Roddy Piper did it to Hulk Hogan? It was called showbiz. It's called showmanship. And Cuban is basically telling everyone that, look, I don't want to ruin the fun here. Of course he's trolling or whatever they call it nowadays because it's patently false.
Well, I think it's false as well, but I will say it's very, very interesting because what it does is it makes you think really long and hard about what should or who should qualify as a superstar. We have stars in this league that people call superstars that ain't really superstars. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And so to me, it's not just your level of production. It's not just the victories, but it's also whether or not your box office, too. Sometimes that has an appeal. The exceptions would be the Tim Duncans back in the day, the Kawhi Leonards right now. But when you think about a Russell Westbrook, do you think about LeBron? When you think about a James Harden, do you think about a LeBron? Do you think about people like that? And the fact that Cuban is willing to say something like this, even though it comes across as a bit transparent in terms of what his agenda may be, I don't think you ignore it because he does make a valid point. Are you a superstar in this league, but you're going 42-40? Should we be calling you that? I like the fact that that question gets probed. I like the fact that Russell Westbrook may go into the playoffs as a 7th seed, for example. Okay, we're talking about him league MVP. What about this dude, Kawhi Leonard, that's been doing it on both ends of the floor all year long for the number 2 seed San Antonio Spurs, who have an opportunity to be number 1? What about before Kevin Durant went down? Yes, he was only averaging 26, but it was on 53% shooting. You know, and so you look at it from that perspective, you start thinking about it. Of course, I think that Russell Westbrook is a legitimate top 2 candidate for league MVP honors, but it makes you think about what should qualify as a superstar.
Do you think he's a superstar?
Absolutely.
Westbrook?
Absolutely.
Is this like a 3 to 5 superstar league, the way you quantified it? And
I think so.
Who is that from star to superstar?
I don't think that, like, for example, I have a problem. For example, I'm a fan. Listen, I like and respect, and Max and I have talked about this, I like and respect Blake Griffin. I hate the fact when he's called a superstar. Blake Griffin is not a superstar. He's a star, but he ain't a superstar. Melo is a star, which is you and I talk. I think he's a superstar offensive player. But is he a superstar compared to those others that we mentioned? Not with the Knicks losing like this.
Everyone has their own definition for superstar. Yeah. I think that's a good one. I would say who's actually worth a max deal. Because let's not forget, it's not just some random number. It's based on a percentage of the cap. So who can you give between 25 and 30% of your cap space to and have it be worth it, or maybe even them exceed that value? That's a superstar.
The only reason why Max and I butt heads on that particular issue is because Max will look at it blanketly like that. I'm saying, yeah, but what if you're a team that has nothing? All of a sudden, a whole bunch of people are worth the max just because you got to get something in there. You see what I'm saying? And that's why, again, for some teams, it's worth exactly what you say for the reasons that you say. For others, they might be a bit more desperate. And then all of a sudden, you're willing to give those guys it, even though they don't deserve it.
But I would say if they're not worth it, not a superstar. DeMar DeRozan's a real good player.
Right.
He's not a superstar. I don't care if he gets a max deal. He and Stephen A. and I disagree on Blake Griffin. Right. Even though there are better players than Blake Griffin, I think he's worth a max deal. He's a superstar in my book.
Well, see, he looks at it. Look, Mike Conley. I love Mike Conley.
Yeah.
153 million.
He's not a superstar.
Not a superstar.
Best player is not.
Bradley Beal. I like him. Second coming to Allen Houston. 128.